As Russia's war on Ukraine approaches its 7th month, there's growing concern tonight about what President Putin is capable of in the face of defeat. I sat down with Senator Jim Risch, the top Republican on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and here's what he said about Putin's conscience and why he thinks Russia's war on Ukraine is far from over.
Putin made a horrible mistake when he started this. I don't know who he was getting advice from, but I think somebody told him that this would split split NATO. It is not split.
You have to wonder, does Putin realize how much ground he's already lost in this war that has been retaken by the Ukrainians?
Putin has lost this war. And when I say that, I say that his objective was to march in, occupy the country, set up a puppet government, and have Ukraine be a lot like Belarus, where it was just a thinly disguised a state of Russia. That's over. It hasn't happened. I can tell you, after talking with these people, they will fight in the streets with broomsticks if they have to. The Russians will never, ever occupy that country.
How do you see, though, this illegal invasion by Russia ending?
We've got history to look back on this. There's been a few wars over history, probably thousands of them. They end when one or both parties fight to the point of exhaustion, and then they sit down and talk and get a resolution. That's probably what happens here. I have to tell you, though, that neither side is even close to that point. The Ukrainians are not giving up. I mean, they just simply, Putin has not weakened their resolve. He has very much steeled their resolve. So there's a long ways to go, and I think it's going to be Russia that's going to have to make decisions as to how far they want to go. Look, they've had 100,000 casualties. I mean, another great loss for Putin, I think, was the great myth that was out there around the world was the might of the mighty Russian military. I mean, it's been stripped bare. Their prowess on the battlefield has just been stripped naked. It's not there. Here they are, quote, a superpower, I guess only because they have nuclear weapons, fighting a country. They're 125 million people fighting a 40 million person country who are fighting with sticks and stones. And the Russians are losing. You got to remember, these things wax and wane, and Putin will respond. And he, I'll tell you what, his conscience is an amazing thing. I've said all along that at some point in time in the not too distant future, he's going to be playing checkers with Adolf Hitler in a very different place. It's hard to believe that a human being could treat other human beings like this. I mean, he's throwing these young men in his country into the meat grinder every single day, and they're killing women and children in Ukraine. I mean, like you say, what makes him think the way he does? This is what happens when you have an autocrat and one that's been in power for a long, long time and has absolute power. He can do this.
Do you have that concern still that Putin could just say, you know what, I'm losing so bad that I'm just going to...
You said still. I never had it in the first place, and I don't have it now. He knows what the situation is there. You know, the use of a nuclear weapon would change dramatically the world in very short order. There's two things I'm convinced he's not going to do. One's use a nuclear weapon, and the other is to attack a NATO country. He's been very careful not to do that, and those are a couple of really smart moves on his part.